Today on Remaking Super Mario World in Godot, Mario learns to swim and fly. I'm looking into the game's water and cape physics with all their juicy details, and then recreating them in Godot. Hi there, I'm Y, and to teach myself game development, I'm remaking Super Mario World in the Godot engine. And my remake is starting to look a lot like the original game now. If you're ever not sure which one you're seeing, when it's got a Godot window behind it, it's mine. In the last video, I mostly explored the Godot side of things, like animation players and shaders. This time, I want to shift the focus back to the details of Super Mario World's physics. In particular, Mario's ability to swim in water and fly with the cape. Let's start with water, because if I want to get my feet wet in Godot, surely the best way to do that is to make some water physics. But enough of the puns, let's dive right in. Love it or hate it, water has been a part of Mario games since the very early days, so I'd better make sure my remake has proper water physics as well. But what does water physics actually mean? A lot of things all over the place. Number 1, Mario's maximum walking speed is lower. Number 2, Mario can swim, which is basically jumping an unlimited amount of times in a row. Number 3, gravity is lower, so it takes longer to fall down. Number 4, there's not only a maximum speed for falling down, but also a new one for swimming up. Number 5, there are some things Mario can't do, like duck jumping, spin jumping, or sliding on slopes. Before I implement all of that, I'm gonna take the time and build an underwater tile set. It's not strictly needed, but it does set the right mood. Now, there are two ways for Mario to be in water. Either the whole level is an underwater level, or Mario's touching a water tile in an otherwise not underwater level. Let's start with that first one because that seems much easier. All I need to do is add a flag to the level script that controls if it's a water level or not. I've had a function to check if Mario is in water since all the way back in part 1, but until now it did basically nothing. It's time to finally give it some purpose, which is just to read that water level flag. Now I can use this to check whether Mario should use normal physics or water physics. And I've got two options here. Either make two versions of my physics script, one for normal, one for water, and check which one to use, or keep the one script and put the water check in multiple places. This is an age-old dilemma anytime you're organizing something. What should be the top level? In this case, I think I'm gonna go with one script and multiple checks. Having two scripts could be done pretty neatly with resource files, but in the end, things like running and jumping make for a better top level than the fact that Mario is in water. But knowing this project, I'll probably have to come back later and do the exact opposite. Now, let's actually code some physics. Water physics change number 1, walking. Walking mostly works the same, including acceleration and deceleration. The only difference is that the maximum possible speed is lower, so Mario can't walk as fast. That's easy enough. Check if Mario is underwater and use a different speed value. On land, Mario has two different maximum speeds, one for walking and a higher one for when you hold the run button. In water, the run button makes no difference, but now it makes a difference if Mario's touching the ground or not. His maximum speed is lower on the ground. So underwater, swimming is faster than walking. Another difference is deceleration. Like I said in part 1, deceleration only applies when Mario's touching the ground, so he doesn't slow down while he's in the air. But underwater, it always applies. So when you let go of the D-pad, Mario always comes to a stop, no matter if he's touching the ground or not. And that already feels a lot more watery. Water physics change number 2, swimming. Swimming is basically unlimited jumping that Mario can do even if he's not on the ground. But that's not all. There are two kinds of swims. For the initial swim, where Mario starts on the ground, his vertical speed is set to a fixed number, a little lower than his normal jumping speed. And any swim after that just adds on to whatever his speed currently is. To make it look like a swim, I need a couple more animations. When you press the jump button, Mario plays a swim animation, and any other time he isn't on the ground, it's just this one frame, which I'm calling the idle swim animation. Water physics change number 3, gravity. On land, Gravity depends on whether you're holding the jump button or not, so Mario falls a little slower when you hold the button. Underwater, the jump button doesn't matter. Gravity is always the same. It's just a lot lower, and that's what makes swimming feel so floaty. I guess this is a good time to tell you how I'm actually finding these physics values. This is not a tutorial and only really useful if you can read assembly code, but maybe it'll be interesting. The truth is, a lot of the work has been done for me. This is the Physics Modifier patch by Thomas. It's meant to let people change the physics in their Super Mario World ROM hacks, but I'm just using it as a reference for the game's default values and as a starting point for looking through the game's code. So here's the underwater gravity value. If I look around in the file, I see that it's used around address DA0F in a Super Mario World ROM. If I check that spot in a disassembly, it corresponds to these two instructions that lower Mario's vertical speed by 2. The way the game handles speed, see part 1, I know that's 2 subpixels per frame, or 0.125 pixels per frame, or 7.5 pixels per second. So that's 7.5 pixels per second subtracted per frame, or 450 pixels per second subtracted per second. Don't worry about keeping track of the units. What matters is it's 450. Except it's not? That seems way too high. And looking at the code again, it seems like water gravity is only applied every 4th frame. So I'm gonna have to divide that number by 4 to get the actual gravity. And that seems close enough. Water physics change number 4, vertical speed limits. Mario's downward speed is always capped at roughly 240 pixels per second. He can't fall faster than that. Underwater, the game also caps his upward speed. And it turns out that's super important for the game feel. If the game didn't cap Mario's speed, he would just shoot off uncontrollably. The maximum upward speed in water is pretty restrictive. And, crucially, it depends on whether you're holding up or down on the D-pad. Did you know that when you hold up while swimming, you go up a lot faster, and when you hold down, you only go up a tiny bit? That's really useful for swimming through tight spots, and it's all thanks to the different maximum speeds. Water physics change number 5, restrictions. Underwater, Mario can't spin jump, he can't slide on slopes, and he can't duck when he's not touching the ground. But that's no big deal. I just need to sprinkle some more water checks in the physics code. Now there's only one thing missing, these bubbles that Mario keeps blowing out. I'm just gonna make a simple bubble scene and make Mario spawn them every couple of seconds when he's underwater. Did you know these bubbles spawn twice as fast when you're holding left, right or the jump buttons? I didn't before I made this video. So that's water physics done, right? Well, only for underwater levels. I still need to handle regular levels where Mario can enter and leave the water. And here's where the interaction points from part 2 come in again. In Super Mario World, Mario is considered fully underwater if both his head and body interaction points are touching water tiles. In Godot, to check what tile a point is touching, I need to convert its position to tile map coordinates and then get the tile at those coordinates. At least that's what I think. I feel like any minute someone's gonna come up and tell me there's an easier way. Now, how do I check if that tile is a water tile? I could just check the tile's number, but it looks like there's a nicer way. I can add a custom data layer to the tileset that lets me attach all kinds of data to each tile. All I need here is one Boolean variable, and I'm gonna set that to true for these 2 tiles. In Super Mario World, when Mario enters water from above, the game sets Mario's vertical speed to 0, shows this splash effect, and spawns 4 extra bubbles. But when Mario is small, it only spawns 3. I've got to put that in my remake too, otherwise I could never forgive myself. I want to be joking here, but I've been thinking about bubbles so much I'm worried it might be true. When Mario's body is touching water but his head isn't, that means he's near the surface of the water. And if you press the jump button while holding up on the D-pad, Mario jumps out with an extra splash. And that's the only way he can jump out. If you're not holding up, this vertical speed is capped and he sinks right back down. One final fun fact. In part 1 I talked about the P meter, which can fill up to let Mario run faster. It turns out that the P meter stops counting down when Mario is in water, so even if he stands still, he can go back to running speed almost instantly when he leaves. I guess Mario's being a little inconsiderate here, because, you shouldn't leave the water running. But on the other hand, it is nice of him to hold in his P while swimming. And that's water physics really done. When you compare them to the original game, they're not pixel perfect, but they're pretty close. They definitely feel the same, and that's all I really care about. Now that Mario can move on the ground and in the water, that leaves only one element, and 0 excuses. So now, finally, let's tackle the cape. The cape was introduced in Super Mario World, and although it hasn't been used a lot since then, it's probably still one of the most iconic, powerful and complex items in the series. So what does the cape do? Number 1, Mario can fall more slowly. Number 2, Mario can do a cape spin that kills enemies. Number 3, Mario can take off and fly through the air for as long as you like, or as long as you can manage. But let's start with the thing that gives Mario a cape, the feather power-up. Unlike the mushroom and the fire flower, the feather doesn't slowly grow from a block. It shoots up and then floats down with a swinging motion. In Godot, I can make the feather by inheriting from the power-up scene, just like the mushroom and flower, and then add some feather-specific code to make it swing, which is just a matter of setting the right speeds at the right time. The smoothness comes mostly from the horizontal movement. If I remove that, you can see the vertical part is actually pretty stiff. Did you know the feather's arc isn't symmetric? For some reason, the game makes it fall slightly faster on the left side. When Mario touches the feather, he gets a cape, and that means adding a new power-up state to my player script. This one doesn't give Mario a new sprite or palette, but it does come with a new cape sprite that moves along with him. The cape has its own separate set of animations. When Mario is standing still or jumping, the cape falls down. When he's walking, it flaps in the air, and when he's falling, it rises up. In Godot, the animations and the logic for when to play which one are easy enough to replicate. Still lots of potential for me to mess up though. Now Mario can grab a feather and swing his cape around, but it feels kind of weird because it doesn't do anything yet. So let's go ahead and change that. Cape power number 1, slow fall. When you hold down the jump button, the cape slows down Mario's fall. This is probably the easiest cape power to make. Here's the code I wrote in part 1 that limits Mario's vertical speed. The default limit is 240 pixels per second. And now I just need to check if you're holding the jump button and then set it to 60 pixels per second. Is that it? Almost. Because here's another thing I'd never noticed before. When you press the jump button, what Super Mario World actually does is start a timer that runs for 16 frames. And the slow fall is active as long as that timer is running. Think of it like holding the jump button plus a few frames of leeway. That's why Mario will sometimes float for a few extra frames even when you let go of the button. Cape power number 2, the cape spin. When you press X or Y, Mario spins in place and the cape can knock out enemies and hit blocks. The same thing happens when Mario spin jumps. That means it's time to give the cape a hitbox. For colliding with entities, it's made of these two rectangles. They're only active during the cape spin and they alternate based on Mario's direction. I'm gonna change the entity base class to make it check for cape collisions and add a function to the enemy class that kills the enemy when the cape touches it. For colliding with blocks, the cape has a different hitbox that's much smaller. Instead of these rectangles, it's just 1 pixel on each side, just like Mario's interaction points that I talked about in part 2. If they were the same size rectangles, Mario could hit way too many blocks at once. So I'm gonna change the block class to make it check for collisions with those 2 points, and add a function to the component class that runs when the cape hits the block. Now every block component can decide if and how it handles cape interaction. The only one that needs to do that is the hittable component, and it just makes the block bounce. And there we go! That's slow falling and cape spinning done. Now here comes the fun part. And by fun, I mean let's just get this over with. Cape power number 3, flying. Cape flight is notoriously complex. Remaking it always seemed like a daunting task, not least because I don't know that much about it. I can kind of do it, but it's hard to describe how it works. Mario speedrunners can tell you there's a whole science to cape flight. And they do tell you in the form of many long documents and videos. They've made diagrams of all the flight phases, and they've discovered tricks and details like backwards flight, speed oscillation, wall glitches, sticky flight. Do I really have to recreate all of this? For the sake of production time and for my own sanity, I'm gonna have to simplify a bit. Of course, I'm still making it feel like the original game. I just don't want to obsess over every single detail that only speedrunners will even notice. That's already been my approach for this whole project, so I think it's gonna be fine. And even without those tiny details, there's still a lot to take in about cape flight. When Mario does a running jump with the cape, he takes off, moving up at a constant speed without being affected by gravity. This lasts for as long as you hold the jump button, up to a limit of 80 frames. When the takeoff ends, that's when the real flight begins. During cape flight, the controls are very different from normal gameplay. There are 6 phases of flight, each with their own animation frame and their own speed and gravity. In phase 1, Mario falls more slowly, and in phase 6, he's ready to slam the ground. You can control these phases with the D-pad. In normal gameplay, it moves Mario left and right, but now it changes the flight phase. When you hold the same direction Mario is moving in, so right when he's moving right, he goes toward phase 6 over the course of a few frames. When you hold the opposite direction, he goes toward phase 1. And when you don't hold any direction, he goes toward phase 3. In all 3 cases, he just drops down to the ground more or less quickly. The magic happens when you alternate the button presses. If you time them right, Mario can actually gain height between phases. This is where you hear the iconic swoop sound. But if you just mash the D-pad randomly or too quickly, Mario won't get very far. He actually needs to earn the right to move up by first moving down at a certain speed. This is known as air catch potential, but I'm just gonna call it boost. If Mario hits 90 pixels per second, the game will give him a small boost the next time he goes into phase 1, like a voucher he can redeem. And if he hits 240 pixels per second, it'll give him a big boost. The speed for this big boost can only be reached in phase 6, so that's why Mario needs to dive down all the way before swooping up really high. Now, some of you may remember that this is a video about Godot, so let's think about how to implement this. The first thing I need is a new sprite for the flying frames. They're a lot bigger than Mario's regular frames, so I'm just gonna make this a whole new separate sprite. Cape flight is really different from normal gameplay in both physics and animation, so I think I should add a new state to the gameplay state machine. Let's call it Flying with Cape, and make it hide Mario's normal sprite and show the flying sprite instead. Now I need to make it so Mario can take off when he does a running jump with the cape. And when the takeoff is finished, put him in that new flight state. So, in the physics function that handles falling, I'm gonna add 2 new bits of code. One that makes Mario rise instead of fall while the takeoff timer is running, and then another one that checks if he's about to fall down after takeoff, and if so, puts him into the new flight state. And there we go. But it doesn't really do anything yet. I still need the 6 phases of flight. I could add 6 new gameplay states, one for each phase, but they would end up very similar and only differ in some numbers. So I'm just gonna make the phase a variable in the physics script. The way I'm coding it, all the physics functions also live in the physics script. The job of each gameplay state is just to call some of them. The normal state needs quite a lot: walking, jumping, swimming, and so on. But in the flying state, all I need to do is handle direction, movement, and gravity, which all work slightly differently from normal gameplay. Check if Mario has earned a boost yet, and if so, store that for later. And check if Mario should change to a different flight phase. And if that puts him in phase 1 and he has earned a boost, push him up and give him negative gravity for a while. And after putting all of that together, Mario can finally properly fly. And it actually feels really nice. Like I said, it's absolutely not frame perfect, and speedrunners will definitely be missing some tricks, but this is satisfying to me personally. And if it's not satisfying for you personally, then feel free to change it. Because yeah, when I'm done with this project, I will be publishing the code. You should probably keep your expectations in check, because this is not a game release or a bug-free new engine, just a personal project that I'm putting out there. But if you want to play around with it, you can. Thanks so much to Nathan is Bored and TJB for their documents and diagrams on Cape Flight. I really couldn't have done this without them. So, there we go. We've conquered the elements. Mario's moveset is now pretty much complete. In the next video, I want to tackle the two biggest things that are still missing for the full Super Mario World experience: carrying items and adding Yoshi to the game. Hopefully that will take slightly less long. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you're a freaking nerd.